It is the most sensational archaeological discovery ever made. The first time anyone laid eyes on the incredible treasures of a pharaoh. The tomb of Tutankhamun, containing over a ton of gold and jewelry. For nearly a century, images of this amazing event were confined to ghostly black and white. But now, for the first time, with cutting-edge colorization, we can bring these scenes back to life and witness this event just as it was, in color. The characters in an extraordinary story of endeavor. The recovery of over 5,000 precious objects. And the lavish but tragic life of a pharaoh who died young. The Valley of the Kings. Over 3,000 years ago, this was the burial place of the pharaohs. When the valley is rediscovered in modern times, adventurers unearth dozens of magnificent tombs. But they are all empty of their royal treasures, stolen long ago. In the early 1900s, the Valley of the Kings is declared exhausted, with nothing more to find. But one man refuses to believe this. His name is Howard Carter. The secrets of how this English archaeologist found Tutankhamun's tomb are held here, in Oxford, England, in the vaults of the university's Griffith Institute. Since Carter's death, the university has held his personal papers. Carter kept detailed records, and this incredible collection includes his diaries, maps, plans of the tomb, and hundreds of photographs. To bring Carter's quest to find King Tut back to life, we're using the latest cutting-edge colorization techniques. Paris-based art director Samuel Francois Steininger and his international team is famous worldwide for transforming historical black and white film and photographs into color, and with unparalleled accuracy.
I truly believe that to understand history, the people and the events of the past should be real to us. Our ambition always, with black and white photos or film, is to put back the colors, to make historical characters feel real, and to make events feel like they happened yesterday.
Even colorizing this simple photograph of the young Howard Carter takes days of research into contemporary fashions and colors. It reveals Howard Carter as a teenager, relaxing before leaving on his first journey to Egypt. In 1891, Howard Carter, still just 17, lands his dream job as an artist, copying the painted reliefs in Egyptian temples and tombs. This is one of his early works. Carter copied this falcon, representing the god Horus, from a doorway in the mortuary temple of the female pharaoh Hatshepsut.
It's certainly one of our favourites. It's just such a beautiful, amazing painting. You can see there's pinholes where he just basically pinned a piece of paper to a board and sat in front of the wall drew this freehand. As far as we know, it's pretty accurate.
Just as Carter makes his way in Egypt in the late 19th century, a new medium is created. Film. This footage from the 1890s of camels carrying animal feed is amongst the earliest film ever recorded in Egypt. Colorizing still photographs is already challenging, but Sam's team faces an even tougher task to do the same to film.
With film in particular, you face a number of difficulties. Footage is often damaged, dirty, scratched. The original frame rate can be different from film today. All these issues we need to fix before we can even start adding the color.
The original film is cleaned and converted into digital files, then sharpened up, film grain and damage removed from each shot. The color of the clothes and buildings is researched. Then each object is carefully colored and the colors animated to follow the objects. The texture of the temple wall, the light on people's clothing and their faces. Gradually, the Egypt of Howard Carter's time comes to life. Carter is entranced with Egypt's ancient history and soon becomes an archaeologist. Within 10 years, he's one of the most successful archaeologists working in Egypt. Then, in 1909, Carter meets a man who will transform his life and sets him on course for the most famous archaeological discovery of all time. This is Highclere Castle, location of the TV series Downton Abbey. In the early 1900s, it is home to the 5th Earl of Carnarvon. Like Carter, Carnarvon is an Egypt obsessive. He is wealthy enough to pay for his own excavations. But he needs an expert who knows where to look and how to excavate. So he hires Howard Carter.
He was not an easy man, Howard Carter, but he discovered in Lord Carnarvon a man who was equally passionate about Egyptian works of art, about the country, about the wildlife, the experience of being in Egypt. So they found they had a lot in common, and they were both very dedicated.
They both dream of finding something which had never been seen before. An intact tomb of a pharaoh. And Carter knows exactly where he wants to look. The Valley of the Kings. By 1912, the valley is declared exhausted. But Carter has good reason for thinking otherwise. From his research into lists of the Egyptian kings, recorded, for example, on temple walls, Carter knows that not all of the pharaoh's tombs have been found. One of the missing tombs is Tutankhamun's.
One of the things that Carter was conscious of is that nobody had ever done anything systematically. All the digging had been here, there, back over there. And the case he put to Carnarvon was that the project he wanted to do was to clear everything down to bedrock. Everything which had not been cleared down to bedrock would be. So that at the end of everything, if they didn't find anything, they knew there was nothing to be found.
There is something else that gives Carter confidence. Objects known to be used in a royal burial are unearthed in the valley. Some bear the name of Tutankhamun. Carter is convinced that his tomb does lie somewhere in the valley. In 1914, Carnarvon decides to back Carter's hunch to excavate in the Valley of the Kings.
The time was extremely bad because just the moment they got permission to work in the valley, the First World War started.
Troops arrive in Egypt from across the British Empire, preparing to fight. Most archaeology in the country is suspended. It's another 3 years before, at last, Carter and Carnarvon can begin the search for Tutankhamun. Carter decides that in order to have any chance of finding the tomb that everyone else has missed, they'll need a rigorous approach.
So this is Carter's map of the Valley of the Kings that he drew in 1917. So he's drawn a section of the valley, and then he's divided it up into grid squares, and the idea was that they dug down to bedrock in every square so that they could be sure that they weren't missing anything.
Each sector is around 100 feet wide. Carter's plan is to remove all the stones and debris, one section at a time. It is a massive task. But by 1917, a large and experienced Egyptian workforce is available.
Each one of them knows exactly what they are meant to do. There are some who would sieve, some who would take the sand in the baskets, move away, others who would move the rocks away. We would usually see the boys taking the sand away, and it's usually the men digging.
Carnarvon employs hundreds of men and children. They remove thousands of tons of earth and stones. But by 1922, after 5 exhausting seasons, they have found virtually nothing. And following a devastating war, even Lord Carnarvon's finances are tight.
Income tax in England in 1914 was 6%, in 1918 it was 60%. There was no revenues really from agriculture. In June 1922, Lord Carnarvon was reviewing his overdraft, and he had said to Howard Carter, I can't continue to finance these concessions in Egypt.
It could spell disaster for Carter's excavations. With just 2 sectors left to explore, he begs for one more chance.
I wonder what Howard Carter said to Lord Carnarvon. I mean, I think he really did love Egypt. He loved spending the winters out there. And I think it was probably quite easy to persuade him to have one more final season.
Carter begins his final season of searching on November 1st, 1922. Clearing the last 2 sectors of the grid will be a delicate job. His team must dig around a popular tourist attraction, the tomb of Ramses VI. And excavate and clear the remains of ancient huts left by the builders of Ramses' tomb. But after just a few days, one of Carter's team makes an amazing discovery. The story goes that it is a young boy called Hussein Abdul Rasul. His job is to supply the team with water, carried in round-bottomed clay pots. He digs a hole in which to stand his water pot, but hits a hard, flat surface. Hussein reports his discovery immediately. As the team starts carefully removing rocks, they reveal a flight of steps descending deep into the bedrock. At the bottom of the steps is a blocked entranceway. Carter is convinced he's finally found what he's been looking for. Howard Carter is sure that he's discovered a tomb in Egypt's Valley of the Kings. He immediately sends a message to his financial backer, Lord Carnarvon, in England.
And Lord Carnarvon opened it, and it was a telegram for Howard Carter saying, "At last have made wonderful discovery in Valley. A magnificent tomb with seals intact. Recovered same for your arrival. Congratulations." I mean, I'm not sure he knew exactly what it would lead to, and they'd had so many false starts.
Carnarvon arrives with his daughter, Lady Evelyn, to see what Carter has found. Carter takes a quick photograph, and we can now see it in color for the first time in a century.